stuff. Okay. Right. Good morning again, you beautiful human beings. I am extraordinarily pleased this morning to welcome Sam Badcock, who's from Havas People. He's a social media and content strategist. I don't know what that is, so I'm hoping he's going to kind of talk to us a little bit about what that is, and also in terms of what Havas People do, and why this might be a pathway you might want to think about. So, Sam, I can see you're muted at the moment. If you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself, and without further ado, I'm going to hand across to your good self.
Hello. So lovely to, I guess, digitally meet you all, and thank you very much for having me. So yes, I am a social media and content strategist. So I will kind of give you a brief overview as to kind of what that looks like and what that means, what I do day to day, and what we do as a company, and the kind of the full spectrum of stuff that you can kind of get up to at an agency like Havas and Havas People. But yes, obviously my name is Sam, as Gareth mentioned, Mr. Jones, and I am I graduated from the class of 2020 marketing communications course at the University of Westminster. So I'm going to give a little overview as to kind of what took me to Havas as well. So if you don't mind jumping to the next slide, please. So in terms of my journey so far, I had my first internship in 2018. So I started off as a social media intern. I was super keen. I would do pretty much anything to work in a social media kind of centric space. And there was a very small but very cool influencer agency that worked with the likes of Lynx, Coca-Cola, some really big names. And me as a student in that time, I was really keen just to kind of soak it all up, get an understanding of the space and kind of be in that environment. One thing I always talk about is that when I was a student in uni, everyone around is also a student, right? You're surrounded by people all in exactly the same boat as you. So for me, the most important thing was I just wanted to be in and around industry. So I was there for the best part of a year. It was absolutely great fun. One of the benefits of working at smaller companies like this to get some experience is that everybody gets to pitch in and try new things. Because there's such a small team, you really get to learn so much about kind of the work that they do in one go. From then on, I saw a vacancy as a marketing assistant at my university, the University of Westminster, and because I am lazy, I thought that would be the perfect opportunity for me to dabble in the same kind of work, but within the comfort of my school campus. So I was there for the best part of a year and a half. That was great fun. I got to do some organic social. We got to do some filming shoots, but we also got to plan things like open days and got to learn about all other kinds of digital stuff involved with kind of like pulling in students and drawing them in to kind of study at the University of Westminster. So it was really good fun. From there, I ended up being a account executive, so very entry-level role at a market research firm. Which I will talk about a little bit more in a moment, before moving to Havas as a campaign manager in 2021 and making my way to a social strategist, which is where I am now. If you don't mind jumping to the next slide, please. So in terms of what I do now, my day-to-day, so I get to run organic social for a handful of our biggest clients. So this is everything you see come through on your feed, from stories to reels to TikToks. And we also run paid social campaigns across the likes of Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., etc. I also get to liaise with global teams across Paris, New York, Chicago, and Buenos Aires to execute campaigns. I was saying one of the most exciting things I think of recent times, and I'm not going to say benefit, tiny silver lining of COVID, is that you get to be just as familiar and acquainted with people working in other countries as you are in your own, because we're all meeting and communicating just like this over Zoom. So it's a great chance to kind of get that exposure to international teams that you may not have had otherwise. And in terms of my clients, they range from consumer goods, so the likes of Mars, so Snickers, M&Ms, to Adidas, to Lidl, to like pharmaceutical clients, so the likes of Pfizer and Haleon, so GSK, etc. So that's a kind of bit of an overview in terms of what I do on the daily. So if we jump to the next slide, please. In terms of the ones that I get to work across primarily, so the ones we would say I spend the majority of my time on. So obviously Mars is a pretty hefty one. They occupy most of my time. They're a very cool client. One of the reasons why I mention Buenos Aires is because that is where our client is based. I also work with a company called WSP. Now, full disclosure, when I started working here, I had no idea who that was. So I'll be very impressed if any of you guys do, because I was completely clueless. But they are actually the company who built the Shard. So their whole ethos is they build tomorrow. They build the world of tomorrow. They build cities, skyscrapers. They design landscapes. They're a very cool company. And then obviously the likes of Adidas you can see in the bottom left. So those are probably the ones that occupy the majority of my time on the day-to-day, but we'll have little projects come in on an ad hoc basis for the likes of Amazon, or other businesses. Cool. So jump to the next slide for me. Thank you very much. So in terms of who we are, Havas as a group, they are one of the world's top 5 largest creative conglomerates. Now, what that means is there are a number of groups like us that are made up of lots of different agencies specializing in different kinds of social media, and we just happen to be one of those. We have lots of different smaller agencies under Havas, ones that work. We have sports specialist agencies, we have PR agencies. Studio Canal is one that specializes in film and TV, so lots of different niche groups. And we worked with the likes of KFC, Marvel, Lego, Nike, The Body Shop, etc. And we're owned by a company called Vivendi, who used to own Universal Music Group. So primarily in sort of the entertainment space. So that's Havas in a nutshell. So if you jump to the next slide. So in terms of what sort of roles that we hire, I always describe roles in agencies being split into 4 main areas. So first and foremost, you've got your client services people. These are responsible for ultimately managing that relationship with the client, and they are what some would describe as the puppet masters. They are the ones who pull everything together. They are the masterminds that help coordinate and manage everybody. So these are the people who will coordinate your creative, making sure you've got your adverts on billboards, your big bus wraps around central London. Then you have your media teams. Now, these are your specialists. These are people who will manage everything from your social media activity to your Google ads to your programmatic online little banners, or the adverts you see before your YouTube video starts if you haven't got YouTube Red, like me, because I'm cheap. But that kind of role. Then we have our strategy and insights people. So if anybody loves doing a bit of research and a bit of a deep dive, that is very much what this role entails. These are people who will do that analysis to understand who your audience are, what are their habits, what do they buy, where do they go, what sort of jobs do they have, how do they think, what do they purchase. And then we have our creative teams. Now, they are exactly what they say on the tin. They are your graphic designers, animators, video editors, those people who get to play around with how everything looks and feels. So for all those budding creatives out there, that's very much probably where you would likely sit. So in terms of skills for those kinds of roles, if you jump to the next slide. So in terms of what qualifications we look at, one of them is a university degree or higher education experience. Now, the reason I say that is because there are various different pathways. There are degree apprenticeships into this kind of work, or there are degrees that specialize in this kind of work. So there are a number of different pathways into this kind of creative industry. So whilst it's very broad, all I would kind of say is that it's good to have that understanding of the fundamentals. So, all the basic groundwork to kind of get you equipped to hit the ground running in this kind of industry. And next is just some work experience. So like I said, advertising is fairly broad, lots of different areas to try. That was one of my main goals for university. There's so many areas to try. So I wanted to use that time as wisely as I could to try lots of different things, to then settle on something that I knew that I enjoyed, which was social media. Because in my mind, there was going to be nothing worse than finishing uni in 4 years' time and starting something and being like, God, this is awful. Because I think, well, you know what, I wish I'd figured this out a little bit sooner. So that's kind of that work experience comes in handy, both for us, because we know that prospective people who want to come join us have that groundwork, and it's also really helpful for you guys because you know and you've got that context of what it is you like to do. So if you jump to the next slide, please. In terms of what sort of skills are really good to have, I'll sort of work my way around. Presentation skills are definitely really important. In case you can't tell, I can talk for England. I'm a very chatty person. Presentation skills are very handy, but also communication skills in general, especially in an age where we're seldom in the same room at the same time. So when you're doing a lot of online work like this, being able to communicate clearly and concisely is very important. Listening skills as well. We're often working with people with very different briefs and very different needs, and that ties into cultural awareness. We work with a lot of people in the UK and the US, but we also work with people across various different continents and countries around the world. So the way that things are received and understood is going to be very different than it would be here. So we need to be able to be sensitive to that and understand that. Next is data-driven and analytical. Lots of numbers flying around on social media. It's very creative and very fun, but we do that with a purpose. So we want to understand how many times someone clicks something, engages with something, watches something. And last but not least is just a little bit trend aware. I always say, trust your instincts when it comes to social. If you think it's funny, the likelihood is everybody else would as well. And like also on the other hand, if you don't think something is very good, the likelihood is it's probably not. So yes, I'm aware I've rambled on for a little bit. So I believe that may be the last slide from me. So I would love to kind of put it open to you guys. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to know, I will open the floor up to you all. Oh, I think you're muted.
I am indeed. I've kind of pressed.
It's going to happen at least once today. Fine.
It is. Normally, we kind of play the rule that if you are muted, that you have to kind of buy people that you're on the meeting with a chocolate bar to kind of apologise for failing to turn your mic back on again.
I will accept that. Yeah.
I will duly send you a chocolate bar. I think the thing I was going to say was actually my experience when we've got 10 tutor groups, the questions don't tend to become forthcoming because they're kind of in a big group. But actually, what I will do, Sam, is I will pass on some questions through to you. And I do, one of the kind of questions that we do tend to ask nearly everybody is basically, what is the bit you enjoy about your job the most?
That is a very good question. So I guess twofold. One, as most people, I spend a ridiculously unhealthy amount of time scrolling through social media, and I absolutely love it. So for me, getting able to do that for work is great fun. But also, I love the creative, right? Working with video editors, working with designers. It's just fun and it's just cool. And I think, often we consume a lot of media, whether we watch TV ads or scrolling through social media or going on YouTube. And I think we have a good appetite for online media, and we know what we like and what we don't like. So it's just nice to kind of exercise those creative muscles in your brain. So that's one of my favorite parts of what I do.
Sam, that's amazing. We are running very, very short of time here, so I'm going to kind of gently leave today's session here. If anybody who is watching this has any questions, please either reach out directly via your tutor or come and find me, and I will make sure your questions get through to Sam. I certainly will be thinking a little bit more carefully about what it is that I'm kind of looking at when I'm scrolling through my Insta feed, how it got there, what kind of process it took a little bit, having spoken to you, Sam. A huge thanks for your time today. And gang, go and have yourselves a great day.
Awesome. Pleasure. Thank you very much all. See ya.
Bye.